If you've ever used or read about vacuum filling pens online, you may have seen that there are some issues with some of them drying up after writing for a minute or so. You're probably wondering what's the answer to fixing this problem. Well, my thoughts? Screw them. Hey, I'm Brian Goulet of the Goulet Pen Company and Ink Nouveau. Okay, so I'm being a little sensational. I'm not saying screw the pens as in get rid of them. No, what I'm saying is that if you're having flow problems with the vacuum filling pen, such as the Pilot Custom 823 or the TWSBI VAC 700, the answer to get them to flow properly is to actually unscrew the back cap of the pen. Why does it have to be done this way? Well, I'm going to show you why. I'm going to take apart the pen and show you how they work and how you can actually get around this issue if you do find it annoying. Here we go. I have here the TWSBI VAC 700 and the Pilot Custom 823. These are both vacuum filling pens. I know there's other ones out there, but these are the ones that I'm familiar with, so that's what I'm going to use for the demonstration purposes of this video. These two are fairly close in design, and it's the one I get asked the most about. The way that this vacuum filling pen works is pretty straightforward. You basically have a rod with a rubber seal on the end of it, and you lift up on it, and as you're pushing it down, it's creating a negative pressure inside the ink chamber. And when you push it all the way down, it kind of flares out on the body right here, and as you push it, it releases, creates a negative pressure inside here, which draws ink up into the pen, and that's how it's filled. Now the way it's designed is actually such that when you have this filler knob completely tightened down, it actually has an O-ring here in the front that is sealing it closed so that the ink chamber is completely closed off from the rest of the pen. That's great and all if you're traveling and doing anything where there's pressure or altitude changes. It won't have the same tendency to leak that some other pens will, especially when you deal with such a large ink capacity. You know, this one's over 2 milliliters, which is about 4 times the capacity of a cartridge converter pen. It'll write for a little bit, you know, so if you're doing like a quick note, just a quick little jot, it'll write just fine. But if you notice, if you write for 30 seconds or a minute or something like that, the pen will start to dry up. And if you think about why that's happening, it makes sense. Because basically, this O-ring is closing off the ink right here. So you've got some ink that's saturated into the feed, so you can write for a little bit, but eventually this is going to dry up, and it's going to need ink supply from the ink chamber. Yeah, it makes sense, right? But if it's closed off, it's not going to write. So the solution that the manufacturers recommend, but not everybody knows about, is to actually unscrew this back filler knob. And what that does, if you can see there, it kind of like moves it out just a little bit, and you can even pull it out to make sure that that actually creates an opening there, and that will allow your ink to flow down into your feed, and you can write and write and write and write for friggin' forever until you run out of ink. Okay, but I don't think most people are aware that this filler knob actually needs to be unscrewed to work properly. And I think the reason a lot of people aren't aware of it is because if you are writing for shorter sessions, it's not something that's going to be that big of a deal until you get to the point where you're running out. But eventually you're going to run into a problem, because even if you're writing for short notes, you know, you're going to run out of this at some point. A lot of people contact me and say, oh my gosh, this pen is terrible, it doesn't write well, and you can see posts on Fountain Pen Network and other places that say kind of the same thing. But as long as you've got that ink chamber, you know, open to the front of the pen, it's going to write. Now you don't need to pull it all the way up to the point where it actually creates contact, you know, to the rubber O-ring to the sides. You really only need to pull it out just a little bit. So I'm going to do a little demonstration here. I'm going to use the Pilot Custom 823 because this is the one that is more expensive, and I get asked about it probably more than the TWSBI VAC 700. But the concept is going to be the same. I'm going to fill the pen, and I'm going to not open up the back and try to write with it. I have a little stopwatch here so I can see you know, just how long I can write with it without having to unscrew the back, and then let it dry up and then unscrew the back and show you the difference that it makes. So I'm going to fill it up. I've got a bottle of Pilot Ama-Iro Shizuku ink, which is a nice sky blue ink. The degree that I fill it doesn't really matter so much. I'm just going to use your typical filling. Actually, I'm not going to even go too nuts filling it, just because you know, this is really just to demonstrate the drying out part. So just give it a nice little push there. You can see as soon as I get it down here, thing shoots up with ink in there. So I've got a really decent volume of ink. This is well over a milliliter, probably closer to a milliliter and a half. So I'll just kind of wipe off my nib, like so. Cap my ink so I don't spill it everywhere. Okay. So now, if I was going to immediately write with the pen, I would just leave the back unscrewed like this. But I'm going to pretend that I am taking this pen somewhere. I'm going to screw the back cap on, you know, carry the pen around for a while, and I'm going to take it out and I'm going to write with it. Now I have some just nondescript mead paper. It's fairly absorbent. So what I really am trying to accomplish is to get the pen to dry out as quickly as I can. So I want kind of an absorbent paper. So I'm going to go ahead and start and write, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. I think we're finally getting there. Wow. Oh, just about 10 minutes of continuous writing, and I'm now starting to get it to where it is drying up, and there it goes. Wow. Okay, just right about 10 minutes. Holy crap. Oh my gosh, that took forever. I was about to stop, to be honest with you. Okay, anyway, so now my pen has more or less dried up. Okay, it'll start a little bit, and then, okay, so this is where people get frustrated, and I totally understand. And honestly, after 10 minutes of writing like this, you know, this is a Roshizuku ink. This is good stuff, very fluid. You really should not have drying issues with this ink. There you go. So you can see what's happening here, and that's obviously very frustrating. But the problem you're having is that that seal is blocking right in here. So what I do is I open the back filler cap here, just pull on it a little bit just to make sure that it's loosened up back there. And voila, look at that. Nice, juicy, luscious flow once again. Look at that. So it's writing beautiful, wet. All it was I had to open up that back cap. Very simple, very straightforward. So now you know a little bit more about vacuum filling pens. If you got any questions about this or anything else, just hit me up in the comments. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, and write on.